Hi, today we're going to talk about brand equity. Here's the long definition: the differential effect that brand knowledge, what's inside a customer's head, their associations and feelings, has on a customer's response, their feelings and behavior to the marketing of that brand. In other words, it's the perceived value of the brand based upon the totality of a customer's experiences. It can be positive, it can be negative. Take Nike versus Skechers. For most Gen Z and myself, Nike has really high brand equity. They have a lot of perceived value. I'm willing to pay more for Nikes, travel further to get Nikes compared to Skechers. I've never tried on a pair of Skechers. I've never been into a Skechers store. But for some senior citizens, Skechers do have high brand equity, high perceived value. Why? They're comfortable. They're easy to put on, and they're relatively affordable. So, brand equity or perceived value, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Take Chick-fil-A versus Popeyes versus KFC. My experience is that college students, you guys, really prefer Chick-fil-A. How much more will you give up of your resources, time, money, effort to get Chick-fil-A versus Popeyes versus KFC? So, brand equity developed really in finance to try to understand what the value of a brand is, its current sales and profits, and its future sales and profits. For marketing, that's really important, but for marketing, it's more about the perceived value that we can build relative to our competitors. So, what are the benefits of brand equity? Well, first, it helps develop greater brand loyalty. And greater brand loyalty also means that your customers aren't really going to pay attention to competitors. Why? Because they already have an answer to that problem or opportunity that they face. They already know their go-to brand. And they're less vulnerable to marketing crises. Why? Because we already have a good feeling towards the brand. So in 2015, I believe, or maybe it was 16, Chipotle had some pretty big issues with E. coli in their food chain, and people were getting sick, and they had to close down restaurants. It didn't really hurt Chipotle at all. They kept, once they fixed the problem, and most people said, well, it's not really their fault, it's the supplier's fault. They were able, their sales kept climbing to where they are today. Volkswagen, on the other hand, in the same year, had a big crisis because they got caught cheating on emissions tests. So when you took a Volkswagen diesel in to get your emission sticker, the computer in the car, it performed fine. It passed all the tests. But when you went to drive it, around, outside of that, it became really dirty to get better acceleration. Volkswagen got caught. They've never been the same sales-wise in the U.S. since then. Take Bud Light recently. Number one beer, right? In the beer category of all beers, all types of beers. And then they, were trying to reach out and promote the beer to LGBTQ. And so they had, the whole thing with Dylan Mulvaney. And what happened? All the regular Bud Light loyal customers boycotted. They lost 5% in market share and their lead as the number one beer to Modelo. So, brand equity, perceived value is something that you have to manage carefully. Now, another benefit of brand equity is your marketing communications and efforts are viewed more positively, right? You're preaching to the choir. They already like you, all right? And so there you're going to take advantage of confirmation bias. And you get more earned or shared media, greater customer engagement. Because again, your customers already have a positive view. And that's going to help you recruit more customers. Hey, you make more money, right? Premium pricing. You can charge more. And as your prices go up, demand is inelastic, which means people don't really buy that much less. You have a higher price with higher profits, you're going to make more money. And if you happen to decrease your price, lower your price, have a sale, demand is elastic. So people are going to say, wow, it's at a cheaper price. They're going to buy so much more that even though your price went down, your revenue goes up, your total sales go up, your market share goes up. And so you make more money when you have high brand equity. And then marketing your product, distribution, you have to work with other companies. And the more brand equity you have, the more cooperation you get from partners in the channel, whether it's a manufacturer, a wholesaler, or a retailer. And you have more power. You get to call the shots more. You have more influence. Everybody wants to work with you. Just think of Apple, right? They make a lot more profit than everybody who works with them, but nobody can afford not to work with Apple. It's a strong platform for brand extensions and co-branding. So brand extensions are when you take your brand and extend it into a new category. So take Dove, who's done a great job expanding their brand name. So what other categories could they go in? Well, they have a strong reputation for being good for people who have sensitive skin and so forth. So maybe they could come out with a men's shaving cream, or a cream that women could put on for shaving their body parts, and maybe even their own razor blade system, a new razor that's better. That would make some sense. And co-branding is when you work with a different brand. So Starbucks and Spotify, Pillsbury and Cinnabon for Pillsbury's cinnamon-based, home cooking buns and biscuits and so forth. Taco Bell and Doritos came out with Dorito taco shells for Taco Bell. They both benefit from the exposure. So when you have a brand with high brand equity, lots of perceived value, you're going to find lots of willing partners for co-branding. And ultimately, you build what some people call customer equity. And really, customer equity is the customer lifetime value of your customers. And, you can think about customer equity and customer lifetime value as doing three things: acquiring customers, getting them to buy more and more different products that you offer, and then keeping them for a long time. So the greater your perceived value, your brand equity, the easier it is to acquire customers, the easier it is to get them to spend more money on your brands, and the easier it is to retain them. Here's a simple model of brand equity, and we'll look at another one later on in the course. But basically, this kind of says it. All right? Do you have presence or brand awareness? Does the customer know about you? Is it relevant to the problem or the opportunity they're trying to solve? Does it work well? Does it work better than competition? If you can do all those things well and better than your competition, then you're going to have that bonding. You're going to have a strong relationship. And you're going to go from a weak share of the wallet or maybe no money to a strong share. Just think about your go-to brands that you go to when you need something that's important to you. They're getting a big share of your wallet. Finally, I'm not going to go over this because it'll be posted in Canvas, but we'll look at some of the brands that have high brand loyalty And sometimes, and what's nice about that is they track it for you over the last 3 or 4 years. And of course, the brands that have high brand equity or perceived value in general. And you can probably name the top 4 or 5 and so forth. So, anyway, so that's it. Thank you very much.